mix everything up, you put the lid on, and you just, instead of holding your hand on like this, like that, just hold it fingertip tight, and make it as tight as you can like that. It's still not airtight. So as the air builds up in this jar. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and this video is meant as a follow-up video to a video I did a couple years ago, I think, where I was showing how I make my fermented pickles. And I get a lot of questions about those videos, and I thought it would make sense to just make a video that speaks to the questions that I tend to get in that video. So, number one, in that video I said to use from 2 to 3 tablespoons of salt. I think I said it like that, but having done this a number of times, I said 2 to 3 to appease people that want to have lower amounts of salt in their food, but really 3 tablespoons of salt is going to give you the best results. It's more reliable in terms of the pickles being crunchy. Sometimes this layer of scum forms on the top. It's not really the end of the world if that forms, but it's kind of gross. By you having the salt solution with 3 tablespoons of salt, that tends to decrease the chance of that happening. So, and when I'm talking about that solution, so if you're using, this is about a 2-quart jar. So for a 2-quart jar of pickles, you need a 1-quart jar of water with 3 tablespoons of salt in it, okay? And the jar of pickles will take almost all the water, or less than all the water that comes out of one of these, depending on how tightly you've got the pickles packed. So when you're gonna make pickles, you boil water, you fill up a jar, this a 1 quart, this is a mason jar, close to a liter, right? 750 mil. You fill one of these up with water, you put 3 tablespoons of salt in it. You put your garlic and your dill and your grape leaves at the bottom of this jar. You pack the pickles in as tight as you can. And make sure you got some near the neck to sort of jam everything down. And then you pour your salt water solution over all of that and put a lid on. And then wait about a week and stick it in somewhere cool. Okay, so that's number 1. In the video I said use 2 to 3 tablespoons, use 3, okay? The pickles are not gonna take on any more, look, you're creating a salt water solution. That, just the nature of the chemistry of that, the water can only take on a certain amount of salt. It cannot take on more salt than it can take on. Once the water is saturated, it cannot take on more salt, right? And the ideal solution for making pickles is about the 3 tablespoons of salt per quart jar of pickles. Someone just leave me a message, who cares? You might want to ask why, I don't think I covered this in the video either. Why is everything covered in a brown paper bag? You need the pickles, once you've done all of that, once you've done everything I showed you in that video, to stay at room temperature for about a week. But you don't want to have light getting at them. You want them to be in the dark. So I just put a brown paper bag over the top, and I put the date that they were jarred up on this was jarred up June 30th, so around July 6th or July 7th, that's when the bag comes off and they go in the fridge, okay? So you got to keep them dark. The final thing I wanted to say in this video is that when you're making pickles, I think in various videos I've talked about different ways to burp the jars. When you have the pickles fermenting like this at room temperature, gases are created, the gases have to escape and get out of the jar. And there's different kind of valves you can buy, and there's different kinds of things you can use. You can use, the sort of classic mason jar lid and just loosen it and tighten it. It's called burping the jar. I think I talked about that in my pickle video. Every day you just loosen it and tighten it again. Right, these are fermented pickles, not vacuum sealed pickles. It's a different sort of project. And I think I've done videos talking about different kinds of valves you can buy, even endorsing them. But after doing this for a number of years and trying different approaches, I find if you can, this is a mason jar, that style of jar. I think this might be Barnardin, but anyway, they're all the same specifications. If you can find the plastic lids for these, I find they're the best. They're tight, but they're not airtight, right? You cannot use these for long-term storage of vacuum-sealed goods. But these plastic lids are ideal for pickling, right? You mix everything up, you put the lid on, and you just, instead of holding your hand on like this, like that, just hold it fingertip tight and make it as tight as you can like that. It's still not airtight. So as the air builds up in this jar, the gases will escape. You don't have to burp it every day. I mean, you can if you want to, but you don't have to because this is not perfectly tight. It seems to work just right for pickling them. For storing them, it's a whole nother thing. Won't get into that here. But for pickling them, that works great. I mean, okay, let's talk. You're gonna ask, well, what do you do to store them? When I store them with one of these plastic lids, I just tighten on as hard as I can. That's all. You know, like after it's been in for a week on the counter, and I put it in the fridge, right? So when it's sitting on the counter, it's just, you know, fingers extended tight. Right? When it goes in the fridge, I put my hand down and I use all the strength I got, and I store it like that with this plastic lid. Again, it's not vacuum sealed, but it's tight enough. It seems to work. I mean, I have pickles stored like, you know, do your own research, do what you think is safe. But I had pickles that I stored like this last fall, last summer, and I took the lid off and was able to eat them in February, March, April, that sort of thing, with these plastic lids. Again, we're not canning, right? This is fermented. So these are continuing to ferment. It's just, you know, after a week, and once you get this liquid cool, the fermentation process slows way, way down, but it's still happening. So, you know, perhaps there's still some activity going on here, but it's that activity that keeps out the bad stuff. Right? So yeah, that's all I wanted to cover in this video. 3 tablespoons of salt. Keep a paper bag on these when they're on the counter. Keep them out of the light. And I find these plastic, I don't know what these are called, but you can get them I got these at, you know, if you live in Canada, Canadian Tire or whatever, but you can buy them online too, I guess. But it's a plastic lid for a mason jar, and you just put it on finger tight. And that works perfectly fine for letting the gases get out while they're fermenting, for me anyway. So yeah, that's it. I hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. And until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching.